Hi. Okay. So today I'm going to talk to you about we'll talk you through the energetic health guide. So this is how you can access your full power by weaving between your masculine and your feminine energies. So if we think about, if it's not about doing more, what is it? What if it's about accessing all of you, all parts of you? What about if it's about accessing more of yourself? So I'm going to talk to you about sort of masculine and feminine energies. So if I just sort of do a little bit of a reframe. So this isn't about gender, okay? So this isn't about thinking about men and women. This is about energy. So masculine is not, when we talk about masculine, we're not talking about men. When we talk about feminine, we're not talking about women. Both of these energies exist within all of us, maybe in different amounts, but all of us possess masculine and feminine energies. So if you think of the yin and yang symbol, so you have, a sort of one half is the feminine, one half is the masculine, and then you have a smaller amount of the masculine within the feminine, and vice versa within the masculine. That's what we're all made up of. We're all made up of the two energies. And so like if you kind of give some very basic, clean sort of definitions. So masculine, if you associate that with action, structure, decision making, delivery. And if you think of feminine about being about sort of emotional intelligence, intuition, reflection, connection. And like I say, this isn't about gender or identity. It's about access to both energies, being able to sort of freely weave between the two, and therefore we are accessing all parts of ourselves. So the energetic weave, this might not be necessarily a 50-50 balance of the two energies. It's about having, like I say, the access between the two, and therefore creating this energetic harmony that we get when we are able to kind of access the both energies in a state of good health. So, if we think about sort of something like, say, some examples of the masculine, so that would be perhaps within a work setting, whether you are leading a project, for instance, that would be very masculine energies needed for that. If you were sort of like sort of thinking about something, analyzing, that's masculine. If you were thinking about something where you have an element of creativity, so maybe where you are kind of needing to implement sort of problem solving and think outside the box, that would be a feminine situation, where you're using feminine energies. If you were needing to impose some boundaries, so setting boundaries, that's masculine energy. And then knowing when something doesn't feel right, it feels a little bit off. So we are connecting with sort of an intuitive feeling, that's feminine. So just to give you some outlines of some basic sort of examples of the two. So the energetic advantage, why this matters more than you think, perhaps. So as a leadership tool or a life skill tool, it will be able to sort of, like I say, sort of access both energies. We'll be able to make better decisions, implement stronger boundaries, clearer boundaries, create stronger relationships between each other. We will experience less burnout and essentially have a sort of more sustainable level of success. So so if you think about maybe the masculine energy is what moves us forward, and the feminine energy sort of makes us stop abandoning ourselves in the process. It's where we become connected to our individuality, to ourself. Okay, so the energetic reality. So most high performing environments, that are very sort of performance focused, they reward one side of these energies, and that's the masculine. So they reward fast pace, tends to be constant output, pressure to deliver, emotional minimal, the sort of minimized emotions, thinking over feeling. So it's no surprise if that one part is, sort of highly developed, and another part is left behind. So essentially, the masculine is really, really celebrated and encouraged, whereas the feminine is often left behind. It's often neglected, and it's kind of not sort of thought of as possessing much power. There's not, there's kind of no value in it. So when the cost of that, when we are only, truly accessing one of these energies, so there's a hidden cost in operating in this way. So if you think of like we can often be in a sort of overthinking decisions. We can experience emotional fatigue, disconnection from self, reactive relationships, this feeling that we're always on the go, and a real struggle to switch off. These are essentially the disadvantages of not weaving between the two energies. And it's not because anybody's doing anything wrong, but it's maybe more if we think about it being because we've been taught to only access half of our system. So are we able to switch, the energetic switch? Are we able to start to introduce more of the, more energies that we're not currently accessing? So some ideas, some prompts maybe that you could consider would be when something feels off, how do you react to that? Do you override it? Do you plod on anyway, or do you start to explore it? Or maybe like in conversations, do you like respond, or do you react? That's a kind of, a way for you to sort of like think about like I say, in a sort of conversational situation. So do you, also within that setting, do you allow space, or do you feel like you have to fill it very quickly? Can you pause, without guilt? Are you comfortable in that setting? Where do you trust your instinct, or do you constantly need external validation? So those are some prompts that you can start to think about and to establish whether or not you feel there are parts of your energetic sort of field that you are not embracing, that you are not like harnessing. So it's a bit of there's something that we call the rebel filter. So that is where you become far more aware of what masculine and feminine energies are. And then you use this filter to sort of see life through. So you start to see life in this way where you are becoming aware of, where is that? What is that? Is that masculine? Is that feminine? And then you start to, sort of establish whether or not you've got a sort of whether you are reacting in a negative or a positive way towards these individual energies. And then when we can highlight that there are some reactions that are perhaps not favourable, where we don't see any point in one of the energies, or we are avoiding it, or some of the traits you sort of think, oh, I don't actually want to do that, or that doesn't feel comfortable, or that's not for me. When we gain that level of awareness, we start to realise where we have some work to do and where there's potential to be embracing sort of a little bit of inner work within that area to allow ourselves to have this level of wholeness. So an invitation for you to ask yourself again is, am I pushing? So that's very masculine, or am I pausing? Am I letting things, sort of happen? And am I taking the time to sort of digest situations? Am I reacting? So, or am I responding? So if you react, you are kind of like it's a very sort of quick sort of impulse reaction. Whereas when you are responding, you are taking the time to consider the situation and then appropriately react in a way that's suits the setting. And then, or are you, another one is, am I overriding or am I listening? So, in a situation, in a conversational situation, do you take the time to let the other person listen, speak? Do you then listen? Do you then consider? Then do you respond? Or is it very much that you've got something to say? It's a one-way street, and then, that's how that's how you deliver. So yeah, this is where this sort of awareness begins, and this awareness can really change everything. So the energetic balance, that's what we're looking for. So does this balance actually look like? So this isn't necessarily about slowing down. It's about gaining this like balanced approach so that, like I say, that you are sort of welcoming in both energies and you are able to sort of dance between the two and can accept that there are situations where sometimes masculine energies are needed and other times there are feminine needed, and that both have value, both have a place in your life. So it's a case of, so some examples, you can still, once you've got this energetic balance, you're not necessarily needing to slow down. You can still lead, but you're going to lead with awareness. You still get, the job done. You still deliver, but without depletion of your own, energy stores. You can still make decisions, but these decisions are now made with clarity, not pressure. You still care, but without overgiving. So you've got boundaries in place that kind of, sort of protect your energy. So this is not less power, it's full power. Okay, so the energetic implementation stage. So there's how can we sort of include some like micro shifts of how you can like start to implement it today within your everyday life. So one might be in a conversational setting, you could learn to pause, before responding. You could learn to give yourself, say, 10 seconds from when somebody said something to actually, what you're going to say next, so that you're giving far more consideration on with your response. So another one would be sort of naming what you feel. So something, when you're kind of actually sort of sitting and thinking about a situation, you are able to share what it is that you're feeling in that situation, but you're also able to ascertain when something doesn't feel right, so that you are connecting with your gut, your intuition, and you are, trusting that and sharing it openly with, the outside world. Another way you could do it is to allow a conversation to breathe and don't rush it, don't feel the need to fill it. You could just, like I say, sort of have that sort of pause to then allow far more consideration to your response in a situation. And then finally, another one might be for you to notice the language. So within a situation, you might choose to really lean into, rather than how do I think about something, it's how do I feel about something. So in that sort of situation, you are acknowledging that your feelings have value and that it isn't all just about how you think. It's that the body part of you is as important, if not more, than the head. And a one, so back to set another one with the language would be rather than always thinking in a situation, what can I do? It might be, how can I be? So rather than having this action focus, that you are, connecting with how you can react personally, what's your, how can you be? What feelings can you, and sort of action, sort of less action, more feeling orientated. Um, so the energetic reminder is that you don't need to change who you are. So when we're becoming focused within this, within energetics, and energetic empowerment, you don't need to be like changing into a completely different person, and how you're going to do things totally differently. You just need to, it's not a case of like losing your edge or becoming someone else, or, it's needing to soften. What it's all about is accessing all of you. So if you have been, like I say, very action focused, very much in your head, it's then considering that, hold on, there's a whole load of power and potential that lies within another part of me that I've not yet been fully expressing and sort of harnessing. So it's this need then, well, not a need, but that you can, well, yeah, it is. It's a need. You need to access all of you, not just the bits that society has potentially been encouraging you to do. So, there's an invitation for and then the energetic reclamation is, are you ready to go deeper and to reclaim more of yourself? And I've got another guide that I can offer you, which is called the Energetic Health Foundation. And in that, I'll walk through with you how you can understand your own energetic patterns, your blocks and your strengths, and then how to start strengthening them. So there'll be a link in on the website that you can have a little look at and see what you think, and see how you can further this work with energetic reclamation. Thanks very much for watching, and I very much look forward to hearing what you say, how this kind of reacts for you. If you'd like to share anything with me, you can find all the my forms of contact on the website, and on Instagram I am lucysales.rebel. Sales is SAYLES and Rebel is REBELLE. Thanks very much. Lots of love.